Yes, we are live here, NBA Hardwood Show on the Run Pure Sports channel. We got Big T. We got a special guest. I'll get to him in a second. Of course, I'm JSU here. PD plays. Don't just blame this on Johnny Pods being late. This is a team effort. We were late on purpose where we're talking too much. And then Tony's like, wait a second. This is really good stuff. Let's just go live so we can talk about it on air. So not my fault. Don't blame it on me. No one was late either. We just got caught talking a little bit. But I'm going to bring my guest in here real quick. The GOAT, Wilson. Wilson, man, it's great to have you back on. It feels like forever, by the way.
What's going on, guys? Yeah, it's been a while. We were talking, man. I remember that 2019 year when we were doing these all the time, and it was a lot of fun.
Love that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Tony, I'll bring you in here, but 2019, you were choking up Wilson. He was on Toronto hard. He was giving some hockey winners. You guys were talking about Game of Thrones. I asked if you wanted to go into the Dragons, series here, but you declined, I guess. So we don't have to talk movies, but what's up in your world here?
Yeah, Wilson before the show was trying to give us credit too, but I remember that year clearly. I like Toronto okay. I think JSU liked them okay. But Wilson from the first round on was like, Toronto's just the best team. They got to the finals, and Golden State did have some injuries, but Toronto could have won that series even without the injuries. They were playing tough. With Kawhi, we just saw it again last series too. Kawhi is the equalizer, and obviously the unknown is he can't stay healthy. But when he's in there, he's definitely the equalizer to anyone. We've seen him dominate LeBron. Not dominate, but we've seen him play LeBron tough, KD tough. He's as good. He just can't stay healthy. So I'm excited. I've been wanting to do more shows with Wilson. And maybe for the rest of the playoffs, we'll come on one day a week or something and talk some hoops.
Yeah, it'd be great. And I will say that no Game of Thrones talk really, but I will say that opening season of what's the new Game of Thrones called? Yeah, Dragon. I thought it was phenomenal. I don't know if it's HBO or that series, but no one can make just people talking more interesting and more uncomfortable. They had another epic wedding scene, or maybe it was the rehearsal dinner, but it was just, I don't know. It was really good. I thought they did a really good job on it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Too. I'm with you. I'm enjoying a lot of those HBO shows. Honestly, Succession. Tony, I know you got into it, right? You're almost there. Have you caught up yet?
Yeah, I'm in what am I right now? Season 3, episode 4 or 5. So I'm getting close. I told you by the end of the week I'd have it. By Sunday I'll have it. I'll be caught up.
That's interesting because this was like 3 days ago. You were like halfway through season 2. So Wilson, are you in there?
I can't say the Succession's like an unbelievable show, but I do think it's really good. And I just think there's some individual people in that show that are really incredible. This guy, Jeremy Strong, who plays the oldest brother, I mean, he's just on a whole new level right now of acting. I mean, he's just it's really bizarre how
is
how
that
good
Ken?
he is.
That's Ken, right?
Yeah, Ken. The guy that plays Ken is just in this current season, he's really taking it to a whole new level. The guy that plays Tom, the brother-in-law, he's incredible too. I don't know. There's some really just phenomenal performances in this show.
Like, I don't think it's as good as some of the other ones I've seen, but I do enjoy it. It's definitely an enjoyable one. I wouldn't put it in my top 5 like some people, but I definitely enjoy watching it.
Yeah, crew. The scenes with Greg and Tom are just so good. Those are the best. In my opinion,
they're very awkward. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. And you can feel it. It's just it's coming through the TV. I feel awkward. I feel it. That's when you know the show is a really good show, though, when you can feel it, honestly. But we'll get through the shows here. Let's get into the NBA talk. Before we get into the 2 games, and I want to get your takes on the series coming up as well. So we'll get 2 games tonight, and then we'll talk the series coming forward. But does anyone have a take on – I haven't talked since the Celtics closed it out, since Milwaukee got closed out by the unbelievable play of Jimmy Butler, the Knicks series. Does anyone have any takes on just kind of what they saw in those series? Wilson, I'll throw it to you first if you have any takes there.
Yeah, so I would just say a couple things that I wasn't like really I didn't have a lot of high expectations for Milwaukee this playoffs, but I certainly didn't see them losing to Miami. I guess maybe thinking about it more now, I should have like given Jimmy Butler more respect. I think the problem is I watched that game they played against Chicago in the play-in, and it was just so ugly. Like, they were losing like 85-80 or something with 3 minutes to go, and I was like, this team is just they can't score. And so, I mean, I certainly didn't expect Milwaukee to be able to beat Boston or Philadelphia this year, but I definitely didn't see this coming. And I think that has to be the biggest upset in a 7-game series ever in like American sports. I mean, I can't think of one that could be bigger. I mean, based on the line at the start of the series, I was I'm a big Mavericks fan. I remember when Dallas lost to Golden State as a 1-8, but most of the spreads in that series were like 5 points, 6 points, 7 points. I mean, Milwaukee was like a 12, 13 point favorite in the fifth game. So
I love that Golden State team. Not to get too derailed, I love that team that beat your Mavericks.
Well, and I love it too because Don Nelson was the coach, and he kind of put it back on Cuban, which was funny.
Wilson, I got one right? for you. So
yeah, go ahead.
You talked about like the biggest upset. Could you say this? Could you say that Jimmy Butler, just if you're looking at a series, like series to series, might have been the best performance for a series we've ever seen?
I think
by an individual player. I'm sorry, by an individual player.
Yeah. I think that if that was like a conference finals or a finals, then it would 100% probably be considered the best performance ever. And, wow. It's hard to think of one that's better. So yeah, I think you could make that case for that for sure.
I'm not saying it is 100%. I'm just saying when you talk about the 8-1 seed, when you talk about the team that everyone considers to be a team that is championship contenders and all that stuff, and you look at a team like you said, who we watched against Chicago, and we're like, do they even deserve to be in the playoffs? And then all of a sudden, Jimmy Butler losing Tyler Hero, losing some other pieces. They have Gabe Vincent playing meaningful minutes and some of these other guys. And he's taken them over the Bucks. And I don't know, like Giannis played 2 games and they lost those games. So even though he was hurt, like they won 1 game when Giannis was out. I don't put much stock into that. Jimmy owned them. I think that you can contend with a lot of the great performances in a series, just talking individual.
Yeah, the Giannis injury meant nothing in that series. I mean, they won the game without him. They were already getting beat pretty good in game 1 when he went out. That's not a valid excuse. And I don't know this team just I did love Giannis's press conference. I thought he handled that really well. It was also a very good question that the reporter asked him. But Giannis, he looked so frazzled in that game. He got that that tip at the end of the game, and he got it. And hell, he almost threw the ball directly out of bounds. It's like he was so scared to get fouled. I mean, and then Budenholzer taking out Lopez. I don't know, man. It was really horrible what happened.
It didn't make sense. Some of those things that happened in that series. And I can say this about Giannis, like you want to talk, like, I don't like the excuses he made about like, I should have defended him more, talking about Jimmy. Like, bro, you're the best player on the team. I can tell you right now, if Jimmy Butler on the other side wanted to defend someone, he don't care who he's telling Drew or whoever he's teamed with, no, I got this dude. You're off. Don't give me like I should have guarded Jimmy more. I saw Jimmy spin you around in the paint multiple times, put you on skates, and then put layups in over you in the paint. Like, don't go there with that. Like, you could have made that call as the best player on your team. Like, I don't want to hear that either. Tony, I'll bring you in if you have anything else to say on that series, and then we can kind of move on. But I wanted to get your take initially on that.
Yeah, so Jimmy Butler performance, the one comparison for me was D Wade in the finals against Dallas that year, when Dallas was a decent favorite that year, and D Wade and Shaq was like way past his prime. Shaq was still decent. But man, D Wade was a freaking amazing in that series, and it was in the finals, so a little bit more weight. But as far as Giannis, I was half joking on Twitter just to kind of stir stuff up like I like to, but I don't know. The title they won was against all injured teams. I wanted to see a little more from the guy. I'm not saying he's not awesome, and I do love all his interviews. He's won me over totally with these interviews. Like, he's honest, he's thoughtful, he just answers stuff. And sure, you might not like everything he says, but he at least thinks about it and gives answers. I love that. But I don't know. I want to see a little more. I want to see them beat a fully loaded team in the playoffs, which we haven't seen yet. Toronto knocked them out when they won the title back in 19, which we were talking about. They won the year. We had the bubble year. They won the year with all the injuries against them, but they still haven't beat loaded up teams. So I don't know. I might have jumped the gun just a little early, like proclaiming him.
Yeah, maybe you did. Let's take it a step back here. I think a little bit. I do love his press conference. I think that I retweeted the segment from Inside the NBA with Shaq and Kenny and Chuck and Ernie, and all of them had different takes on like how to define failure, which was really interesting to me because nowadays you don't see that where four guys can sit around at a table, all kind of have a little bit of a different opinion, and they all just listen, kind of agree, but then add something to the points of each person. I thought it was interesting how, like, you know, Shaq's perspective was different than Chuck's. And I could have known that going in, that Shaq was going to be a little different, military background. And then Kenny was going to have more of, you know, in-between response of both of them, which is what happened. But I don't know. I just thought it was kind of cool to see how Giannis started that discussion. And then I think if you asked 100 players that question, you'd see a lot of differing answers. You wouldn't see them all have the same exact answer, which is interesting.
Well, I also think that the big thing there is that the answer to that question, like say at the opening press conference before next season, I think the answer to that question is very different than 10 minutes after the game's over or 20 minutes after the game is over. I think in time, Giannis and everyone will come to accept that the truth of the matter is that, yeah, the season was a utter disaster. I mean, it was a complete failure. You can't lose to the 8 seed when you're loaded like that. But in the heat of the moment, right after the game, you know, I thought Giannis just did, even though he probably was not being fully truthful, I thought he did a really good job of sort of handling his emotions and trying to put some perspective on things, which I also think is like, I actually think that it's both. I mean, I think that his perspective is spot on, but then people that want to say, well, no, wait a second, this season was a failure, I think they're right too. It's not black and white, you know?
But I don't think he's a failure is what he needed to see, right?
Right.
Yes, the season was a failure. That doesn't mean you're a failure, and that doesn't mean you can't build off a failure. I think like Kobe and some of these hard-earned competitors, Jordan, Shaq, these guys, they look at it as like, I didn't win. It was a failure.
It was a failure.
I'll build off of it.
I like his honesty,
use it
though.
as momentum, though. That's the difference is, and I think Giannis over time, like you said, Wilson, will use it as momentum to build and say, okay, Tony, you think I'm not there? Not you exactly, but like, you guys think I'm not the best? I'll show you. Next season, he's going to come in. He's going to try and hit those free throws. He's going to try and, you know, work on his mid-range game, whatever. And he's going to try and show people that he is. But that's how I see it.
This is where you get the respect. And again, we're going to go cycle through so many things when we do this, but this is where LeBron doesn't get enough respect either. Because, like, the dude made the finals 10 of his 20 years. He didn't have these first round losses where he was a 10-1 favorite over the other team. Like, that's where that respect, and you just don't have these letdowns. So yes, it was not a successful season for Giannis. And I'm glad he answered it honestly, but you can't lose to the Heat as a 10-1 favorite. And that's a failure. That no matter who, that's a freaking failure if you're considered one of the best players in the world.
Agreed.
And Jimmy shoved it dry. So, like, Jimmy,
and he let him know about it too. He let Drew. He was telling him, even down. He was telling. I loved what Jimmy did. Like, and I didn't play Jimmy Butler. I didn't play Jimmy Butler in DFS both games where he just shoved it right up at the end. Those last two games. And I just enjoyed it thoroughly as a fan, even though I knew I wasn't winning in DFS. I just was like, hey, listen, whatever. Now I'm just watching as a fan, and it was amazing to watch. I wish I backed Jimmy Butler. I didn't pick the Heat over the Bucks. I don't think many of you did. If you picked the Heat in the series over the Bucks before the series start,
you remember what I said? I said I thought it would go 7.
You did say they play them tough, so I'll give you some credit.
I didn't think
there.
they'd win, though, to be fair.
You
and
did.
As the series, so I did say that before the series, but after the early games, I definitely liked Milwaukee the last couple, so I won't take a full victory lap. But going into the series, I did like them to go deep. They match up good with them.
All right, well, let's move to, slowly talking about the two games tonight. I don't know if anyone has a Knicks-Cavs take. My take on the Cavs is you can't play. Evan Mobley needs to get in the gym. He needs to get stronger. He needs to be able to hit a corner jumper because they were just leaving him on the outside in the corner. You can't play Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. They need more shooting around those guys. And then Darius Garland and Donnie need to have a little bit better chemistry, I think. That'll come, I would say. But Mobley, to me, was the key to the series that the Knicks were very comfortable saying, we'll leave you out because we know you're not going to beat us out there. And he'd just do the same thing every time, pump fake. No one went for it. And he just wasn't effective. You can't score 10 points a game in that series when they're just leaving you like that. You can't do it. And you got owned by Mitchell Robinson down in the paint, so you got to get in the gym, was my take on the Cavs. And we'll see the Knicks and Heat go in this next series. I don't know, Wilson, do you have a take on the Cavs-Knicks?
Yeah, I just say that Mobley has to be the most disappointing player in the playoffs so far. Really just a terrible performance by him. Very disappointed. Mitch Robinson's better than Jared Allen. I think that's painfully clear to see. Tibbs outcoached the Cleveland guy. Bickerstaff just all over the place. And it wasn't a close series at all. It wasn't competitive at all. I have no idea why Cleveland closed as a 6-point favorite in Game 5. Like, a lot of these series go back and forth and they adjust a line for that. But I don't really understand the path where, like, what Cleveland could really do. I mean, they just, it was just, they just got killed, I mean, it was not close at all.
Yeah, I agree. Tony, I mean, Cruz says there's no way baseball show's starting at 4:45. Yeah, there's no way, but don't worry, they'll start. I mean, it doesn't matter. Whenever we finish, they'll start, and then we'll have the Up to Lock show. So
I mean,
don't you worry.
It'll start anyways because we can do 2 shows at once now. So it's going to be going the same time we're going.
there you go.
Whoever wants to listen to basketball can listen to us, and whoever wants to listen to baseball can listen to them.
Boom. Love that. Do you have a take on the Knicks Cavs?
Yeah, I agree with exactly what Wilson just said. Like, after Game 3, I thought it would be a zigzag series, but Game 3, the Knicks kind of dominated. Game 4, they came back and dominated again. I just didn't really see what the Cavs could do in that next game. They just were conquered. We've seen this forever. All of us have watched the NBA our whole lives. When a series is won, it's not always when it's over. You can see when a team's defeated, and Cleveland was defeated. Like, Donovan Mitchell just looked terrible. Mobley wasn't there. Exactly what you guys said. I agree totally. And man, I think the Knicks. We don't need to go down this road yet, but man, I love the Knicks over the Heat.
Hold it. We'll go. Yeah. We'll come back. We'll come back here because I got some takes on that series too. All right, let's move to the games tonight. We're not rushing because, like Tony said, they can start the baseball show. So if you're waiting for the baseball show to start, it can still start on time. You don't have to worry about that there. We can have 2 shows running at once. So hopefully if you're here, you're obviously wanting the basketball takes. We'll give you those at 4:45. Those guys will start the baseball on the same channel. First game tonight, Sacramento and Golden State here. In Golden State, a closeout game here. De'Aaron Fox looked unbelievable, even with the finger. I thought he played way better than even I thought. He was still taking a ton of shots with the injury. And even though he went 3 for 10 from 3, 9 for 25 from the field, he still put him up and, whatever. So I thought he was going to take a few less and, the finger was going to affect him more, but he took them. So that was interesting to me. Looking at this game here, Wilson, I'll come to you first. Golden State, 7.5-point favorites here at home. I think a lot of people just see Golden State. They've been a great home team all year. They're going to close it out. Do you feel the same way? 7.5-point, home favorites against the Sacramento team. What are you feeling here?
Yeah, I would just say that to start with on this series, like this has by far been the highest level series, like not even close. The level of basketball here has been incredible. My big takeaway from game 3 and 4 in Golden State was that Golden State had to play their ass off to win those games. They had to play really well to win those games. Like people were saying, well, how come they didn't blow them out more? How come they didn't, it wasn't more emphatic? I mean, really, they played great. Just Sacramento pushed them really hard. And then, I thought game 5 was another really high quality game. De'Aaron Fox, his shot really started getting off pretty bad at the end. Like a lot of those shots in the fourth quarter were not really close, but another couple days getting used to the situation he's in with the finger and all that. I guess you sort of have to kind of mentally think about him as like 95% or something like that. I don't have a play on this game at all, but just from the point spread point of view, like I would just think that I'm going to expect another really good basketball game tonight. That's my take. It's certainly possible that Sacramento could sort of run out of gas. Really great first showing here, but the basketball has just been so good, and I don't really know any reason why it wouldn't continue to be good.
That's how kind of I feel too. Like 7.5 points. Sacramento's been really good. I know Golden State's had to play good, like you said, the last couple games, but man, this series has been awesome. I feel like you get another really good game here. Tony, I'll throw it to you first. Do you have a strong feeling on like, this is it, closeout game, Golden State wins, we move on? Or do you think Sacramento can push this thing a little bit more?
Yeah, so let me start by saying I've been on Sacramento pretty much this series, but I think that last game was a little more backbreaking than we're leading on to begin with. Like they could have hit the buzzer beater in game 4 that would have, let's be honest, probably won the series. If they go up 3-1 with 2 home games left with that crowd, they're going to win 1 out of these 3 games. So they missed that. Then they go home with the injury to De'Aaron. And now they got to go back to Golden State, where Golden State all year has been amazing at home, terrible on the road. I kind of think they might smack them tonight. And like Wilson said, in the fourth quarter of that game, Fox was forcing some shots. Sabonis, this is not Sabonis' series. We've already seen that. And then you start looking at these role guys. I mean, Herder's been pretty bad for the most of the games. Keegan Murray started amazing last game. I was on him, but he cooled off, didn't do much. Barnes, I just don't think they got the horses to hang. So I kind of think they smack them tonight. I'll be honest. But Sacramento's been amazing.
I love a good smack. You know what I mean? Wilson, I don't know if you know this, but I love a good smack when you say the team's going to smack the other team.
Smack them
right in the mouth. They're going to smack them. But Tony, I will just push back a little and just say that for me, even though Sabonis hasn't been it, and I agree, Fox, we'll see how he does with the finger. I kind of lean more like maybe it's an adjustment thing where he might feel a little more comfortable after, saying like, okay, I took 25, they didn't go my way, but I'm getting a little more comfortable with the wrap or whatever it is on his finger and stuff like that. And I don't know. I just think I see De'Aaron Fox as like, there's so many. Jimmy Butler showed it, like ultimate competitor. And I'm not saying he's Jimmy Butler, but I think he's got some of that like fire, competitiveness. You saw him talk John with Draymond. I don't know. I feel like this game,
he
even
can
if
talk
Golden
all he
State
wants,
wins,
his shooting hands jacked up.
I'm just saying though, I think he can keep this game close. I think they've got enough horses. Sabonis has been bad all series, or not great all series. So you don't need him to be amazing again. Like Kevon Looney, Draymond, they've done a great job on him. I just think Sacramento and Golden State, this is a great matchup. And I think it's a close game again here. I would lean the points. You would take the home, I would assume.
And I would just say that one thing in favor for Golden State is that like Looney and Draymond are just completely locked in. They've been showing up and really just dominating every game. And Steph has not had, and really Clay either, has not had one of those just complete like flame throwing shows yet. And if that comes, then you could get sort of the blowout, So I don't know. I'm going to be respectful of the line here. The line is telling you that, maybe like Tony said, this could get out of hand a little bit, but I think that there's just enough from what I've seen. Like, I still feel like that Golden State just has a lot of problems on defense with these guards and stuff. So, we'll just have to wait and see. Are we talking DFS at all or just the game?
Yeah, let's talk the DFS.
Guys, sorry, guys. Hey, I'm at the office. I got to answer the door. Give me 15 seconds. I'm sorry.
Yeah, take it. Tony,
I want to talk about Fox anyways, because I like to talk about this kind of stuff. So we get into playoffs, and like during the regular season, projections are always very accurate in NBA, or at least get you in the ballpark. But I just don't think they can fully like quantify stuff in the playoffs as much. So just for example, like Fox projected for somewhere around 47 tonight. Sabonis, same thing, or projected around 47, which tells me it's just built on a longer sample size than just this series. Like you pull up De'Aaron Fox, he's literally gone for 50 plus in all 5 games. And he's projected for under that, which is fine because the injury, but the projections aren't factoring in the injury stuff. I just don't get it how he can be projected for 47 when he's gone for 50 plus every single game and he's looked amazing. And then you click on Sabonis, who is projected for the same. He hasn't cracked 50 all series. He's got 2 games in the 30s, 1 game at 40, 1 at 43, 1 at 46. So his best game of the whole series is 46. And he's projected for more than that. Like and this is why, honestly, I feel like we do better in the playoffs. Not that we do bad in the regular season, because we don't, but I feel like we have a bigger edge in the postseason because projections aren't everything in the postseason. Like there's no reason for Sabonis, and injury or not, they just shouldn't be projected for the same amount. It's just not a good projection. Like Sabonis should be projected for like 42 or 43 tops. And De'Aaron Fox should be projected for like 50. So I don't know. I just think that's.
I agree 100% with what you just said. And if I was moving I would definitely have Sabonis at 43, and I would have Fox at 50. Like you said, he hasn't not cracked 50.
Yeah,
like the whole series.
It's just got to start at 50, unless you think it. But that's the injury isn't why the projections are like this, anyways. So, like, if that was their reason, they're like, yeah, he's injured, we're going to lower it. I would get that, but that's not why. It's just
it's a long sample. It's a long sample. And during the regular season, who was better majority of Sabonis, I think, over time was probably better fantasy point-wise than Fox. Fox had the huge games, but then he'd have the lower games. And Sabonis, I think, was a little bit more of the steady producer through most of the season. If you remember, like Sabonis was the one most of the time with the higher tag than Fox. So, okay, looking at DFS then.
Sample's about as long as his cock, he says, Jabroni Clyde.
Yeah, I would just say too that on these guys that do projections, they're going to be pretty slow to change things. You can definitely take advantage of that. And one thing that happens in the playoffs, I feel like that ball handling guards tend to get more opportunity. They get more usage. So like it shouldn't surprise anyone that you'll see someone like DeJounte Murray and Jokic, like their points per game performance come together a little bit. I mean, of course, Jokic will still probably average more, but the spread won't be as big. And it shouldn't be a surprise that, where Sabonis probably averaged 5, 6, 7 more fantasy points a game over Fox in regular season, that Fox, is averaging more now. I've just seen that too many times in the playoffs where, the big men get a little bit less and kind of point guard type guys get a little bit more.
Yeah. That's a great take here. So looking at this first game here, guys, because I don't know if we'll go game by game. So let's just look at this first game as a whole. To me, I see De'Aaron Fox as my favorite play at the top. 8,700, his price tag's going down. He hasn't, he's gotten 50, like you said, or higher every game. He seems like the most steady guy in this range, honestly. Like we've said with Sabonis has struggled in this matchup for sure. If you've watched it, you can tell. And then you got Steph Curry, Steph Curry's been solid too, but Fox has just been a little more steady fantasy wise than Curry. So for me in this range at the top for this game, I like Fox as my favorite. Wilson, I'll throw it to you. What are you doing here with like that top range of Steph, Sabonis, Fox?
Yeah, it's interesting because, Steph really hasn't shown a huge ceiling in the playoffs. He's been pretty consistent. But yeah, I would actually think that for the price, I do think that, Fox, $1,000 cheaper definitely has like a bigger point per dollar ceiling than Steph does. I mean, Steph still has a lot of help on his team. With Clay, with Draymond, Wiggins. They were even running some isolations for Wiggins last game, which was surprising to see, but he actually looked pretty good. And they've got Poole. Of course, they can turn the offense over to Monk a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think Fox at 8,700 is really good. Now, I do think that Steph is going to be lower owned than Fox, though. It's one of those weird deals where I do think Fox is going to be one of the highest owned guys on the slate. Or, I mean, I don't know. It's a 2-game slate, so it's hard to say. Everyone's kind of high owned. But, I think that you could certainly make a case that, there's a lot of ways for it to go wrong for Fox. First of all, Golden State kicks their ass. Second of all, maybe Fox really just doesn't shoot the ball very well because of the finger. I don't know. But I do think that, I was just running some teams and kind of looking at it. Like I was thinking about my first run through. I mean, I do sort of think like, I think what a lot of people are going to do on this slate is really try to jam in a lot of these mid-tier guys. Like you can almost start teams with like Bane and Jackson and then go down to Draymond and stuff. So, no, I think that like even like a Steph Fox lineup is really interesting because I think that's actually going to be really unique. And when I say unique for a 2-game slate, you guys know what I mean. Not like unowned or anything, but I don't think a lot of people are going to be going that route.
Yeah, I think it'll be more trying to pick one. I would agree with you there. I mean, Tony, projection-wise, Steph Curry's still got to be I would assume around the industry for the slate, he's got to be the highest projected guy, right?
Yeah, this is where I think you can get a little bit of edge just because, like Wilson said, Fox is going to be higher owned just because you see he's gone for 50 plus all 5 games and he's 8,700. And not that everyone's super game log watchy, but let's face it, he's been amazing in the series and he's 8,700. You just see that price tag in the 8Ks. I mean, people are going to click it. I actually think I just don't like Fox tonight. I didn't like what I saw in the fourth. I just don't. I feel like Golden State kills them. So my angle is definitely going to be to fade Sacramento tonight and hope they lay an egg in there. But I do get it. I mean, if you play both guards in this game, I like the strategy because, like you guys were saying, the mid-range builds on these 2 gamers have crushed all playoffs because the value guys just haven't hit. And you look at the values again tonight. I mean, you got guys like David Roddy. He didn't even play last game. I mean, there's guys that you're not guaranteed to get minutes with. So I think that's an interesting route to play Curry and Fox together. Hope this game stays close and shoots out. And the Lakers have a chance to like lock people up too on D. That second game could play uglier than people think too. So I like this strategy. For me personally, I'm probably going to fade Sacramento for the most part, but I get it for sure.
Yeah, Wilson, if I had Tony's take that they're going to smack Sacramento, I would definitely fade the team too, because if you see blowout, then I think it makes sense to kind of fade that side of the game. I know you were kind of in between, right? You didn't say blowout. You said it could be.
Yeah, I think that game. Like when I look at the point guards just on this slate, we don't need to leave this game, but I would just say that like the guy that actually I think has the biggest ceiling is Ja Morant.
Yeah.
And he's not going to project as well as Steph, but like if you ask me like who could get like 70, I mean, of course Steph could, Fox could, but like I think Ja is actually the most likely. I mean, so like if you're thinking that this game's a blowout, well then maybe save your biggest spin for the other game. And I do think Ja will be lower owned than Steph and Fox. I think. I mean, I'm not 100% sure about that.
He's
The guy
be.
that's been really disappointing in this series has been Herter, and I keep playing him, and I keep just hoping because like the guy's always treated me so well in DFS, and maybe he's just sort of played himself out of a primary rotation spot. I don't know. But
the crazy part tonight, he's even more tempting because they lower him to 4,600.
I think they just went away from him, though. I think they just went away from him for whatever reason. I mean, he hasn't done great in the series.
Is the problem. He can't guard.
Oh my God, he is 4,600. I didn't even realize that.
Price is trying to stare us down.
Keegan's 43. He's 46. You got to make a decision. I mean,
Keegan's a bad play. Like he's a bad play to me.
Yeah, I don't like him. And at least, Herter, as long as he's starting, he's going to have a chance to play well. And, Mike Brown, it's sort of been like that with Mike Brown all year. And I think Mike Brown, by the way, has done a really good job. Is that like between like Murray and Monk and Herter and Mitchell, like these guys, some nights they play 38 minutes, some nights they play 18 minutes. The only three guys, like, Barnes and Fox and Sabonis are pretty much guaranteed for the huge minutes. Then the other guys, it's sort of just whoever's having their night,
Yeah, he definitely does a good job, like feeling out who it is, right? And kind of riding that dude, which makes some of those guys good tournament plays, right? Because everyone knows they're inconsistent. That's how I view like Malik Monk. Like Monk can catch fire at any point in time. Like I think they need Monk scoring. I think they need that from him, especially with De'Aaron a little banged up. They just need someone like him out there that's not afraid to chuck. So I'm always a Monk guy. I'll definitely play him. I think the one interesting thing about Herter is he's small forward eligible, and when I look at small forward, you got LeBron, who you can obviously play if you want to spend up. You got Wiggins, who's been good the last few games of this series, but he's 6,800. That's I think that's a fair price, but it's not a value price. And then you got all these guys who Barnes, he's going to get minutes, but he's probably going to get you 23 again. Dylan Brooks, who shot terrible, but will get the minutes. Kevin Herter, who may get the minutes, may not. And then you go into the cheap guys. Small forward is not a great position. So you could just say, screw it. I'm taking Herter. I hope he gets the run and he's small forward eligible. I don't really like small forward as a position. So I think that's another interesting point with him to kind of throw out there. But Tony, you have anything else?
I will give just a counterpoint too, like to how people are going to build tonight, to go more on what you guys were saying the first game, Steph and Fox. But a lot of people are going to live in this mid-range with Dylan. Dylan Brooks is going to be 40% owned. I know we're not on that game. Kevin Herter is going to get ownership. Dante DiVincenzo is going to get ownership because of these prices. And let's face it, they all have like a 10-point floor. Like they could totally suck. Whereas you can go down cheaper, play a guy like Gary Payton, who didn't get a ton of minutes, but he's going to get no ownership at 3,700. And he could easily outscore these guys, which gives you enough salary too to get up to like the two stud guard type build. So, you don't have to play these guys just because they look too cheap. Dylan Brooks at 40% owned is just egregious to me. The guy has no offensive skill whatsoever. It's crazy. And it's just based on price point. Everyone's going to play these mid-range guys, and you just don't have to play a guy like that.
When a guy's getting slammed by Doris Burke on live television during the game, that's when you know it's like, okay, this guy really doesn't have that much skill in the NBA. He's going to shoot like 3 for 10 from the field again, or 15 or whatever it is. Yeah. Like he's just not a great player. I always fade types of plays like that. If they, bite me one time, they're going to fail like the other 6 times. So Wilson, what do you do with like kind of chalk plays like that? Dylan Brooks, like he's going to shoot it 10 plus times for sure.
Yeah. And it's hard because they leave him wide open. I don't think that he will be 40% owned tonight. I actually think he was only about 30% owned last slate. And I think they raised his price a little bit. And now after that performance, he's going to be owned for sure. But I do think that his ownership is going to be a little bit lower than maybe we think. Well, Dylan Brooks chalk's always bad. And, when you look below 5K tonight, it's just a disaster. I wouldn't mind putting guys like Trey Lyles in my player pool, Trey Lyles he's going to have a chance to go out there and jack up some threes. I think he's kind of interesting. There's multiple paths, for him to get extra playing time too. This could honestly be one of these slates. It probably won't be like this, but you see this sometimes on slates where there's no value, where you end up actually just owning a 3K guy that puts up like 9 fantasy points, and they can be optimal just based on how the rest of the positions work out. So, like Alex Lynn, maybe Sabonis gets into foul trouble and Alex Lynn actually plays like 13 minutes or something, and he gets 13 fantasy points. Malik Beasley comes off the bench and for some reason makes the first 2 threes that he gets and, ends up playing 18 minutes instead of 8 minutes or something. It's unlikely that these things happen, but Aldama maybe. All these guys
slate where that's how you're going to win the slate tonight. You're not going to win it going in there and playing these mid-range guys.
Tony made the GP too. Gary Payton. There's another guy you can go after if you want.
But I think Trey Lyles probably has the best, floor of all these guys. Trey Lyles, he's probably got a pretty good chance to at least get you, 10 or something.
And like you said, 10 to 15 if you guaranteed me 15 right now from Lyles, I would jam him on every team. It gives you so much salary relief and it gets you off those dusty mid-range guys. Keegan Murray, Dylan Brooks. These guys are going to get ownership in that mid-range. It's crazy.
And also,
what about Kevon Looney and Draymond Green? What are we doing with them in the mid-range? Kevon Looney's gotten 60 rebounds in the last 3 games. What are we doing with that there,
I don't
Tony?
know how you can fade guys like him right now.
Man, he killed me last game. For some reason, he didn't. And I didn't end up on my cash lineup, and everyone else had him. And it did not go well when he was just out there.
Kevin Looney has 9, 6, and 7 assists in his last 3 games. He's got 20, 14, and 22 rebounds.
He's
look
so
at these.
Good.
When he's putting up those type of stats.
And he's just mispriced. And I know everyone's going to play him, but he's mispriced. He's 5,900. That's too cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. You can make the case that actually the 2 bigs for Golden State are fairly priced to where you could play both of them. I think Draymond's been awesome in this series, especially the last few games. You can make the case that him and Kevon, you can play them both together on this slate, whereas maybe some will play just one, stuff like that. Anyone else we didn't get to that you guys wanted to bring up that you're high on? I know I want to get to the next game, but
looking at Dante just because he's 3,600.
Yeah, you can play anybody on this slate, really.
Yeah.
I actually do think the next game is just in general a more interesting game to talk about, not just from DFS, but just sort of even though it's not as high quality maybe of basketball as this game, it's a very interesting game to me.
I think it might be a better DFS game, honestly. I don't know if it'll be a better exciting game. I don't know. It might be. I don't know about that, but I think for DFS, it might be the game you might want to be heavier on than the other.
Not to mention, it's a friggin' massive game for the. The Lakers got to put this team away, and if the Lakers win, they have a chance to somehow make a run in this thing. So this game, they can't lose this game and go back to Memphis. So this game's massive.
Let's go here. Lakers at home. They're home favorites here, 5-point favorites, 220.5 total. Wilson, I'll throw it to you first here, but do you think the Lakers close it out here? Do you think Memphis has it to push it to a 7th?
So I would just say that one of my big opinions on tonight's slate would be that I really love Memphis plus 4.5, plus 5. But you got to caveat that with if Luke Kennard is playing. Last game Luke Kennard in 17 minutes, he was plus 26 for plus minus. They are so much better with him on the court than Dylan Brooks. It's just it's night and day. So if Kennard is in, and I guess if he's going to play, then we'll assume that he can shoot. Then you know what, though? Sometimes it doesn't even matter if he can shoot. They just have to defend so differently when he's out there. So I love Memphis tonight. If Kennard is playing, I think that the coach realizes that he needs more Kennard, needs more Tyus, he needs less Brooks. Look, the thing about this series is that Tillman can guard LeBron. So I'm not really sure what the point of Dylan Brooks even is out there. I love this Tillman, Jaren Jackson, Kennard, Jaw, Bane lineup. I love getting Tyus mixed in there. Tillman's been awesome on defense. He's done a really good job on LeBron. I also just thought that the whole time, like, the longer this series went, the better it is for Memphis. Honestly, I don't think this would even have been a series if Memphis was fully loaded, but with all their guys. But that being said, so yeah, I like Memphis tonight if Kennard's playing. If he's not, though, Memphis just doesn't have any guys. They're just out of people, and so I just I wouldn't take the Lakers, I don't think, but I would be very concerned. I would hope that if that's the case, that he would play Tyus Jones like 25 or 30 minutes, but I'm not sure he will. So, that's where I stand on this game.
Yeah, I don't know if they'd play Tyus 25. I would hope they would, but I don't know. I think if he's out, though, it makes the Memphis main guys even better plays, though, right? This is my point of, like, this game could end up being the better, just the target. From the building standpoint, multiple pieces. Desmond Bane's been awesome, but Tony,
yeah, I don't know about that actually, because I just think that Kennard, like we were talking, like he was plus 26 in 17 minutes. The third quarter, they absolutely dominated once he came out. Kennard never shot the ball in the third quarter, but they just have to defend I think really he makes everyone else so much more efficient, just his spacing and the respect they have for his shot. So, I know what you're saying, like, especially for someone like Tyus, the minutes could get jacked up some. Certainly solidifies Dylan Brooks' role.
Because I think the best you get out of Tyus and Ja are without them on the floor. Like, you don't get the best minutes from Ja or Tyus with them both on the floor together.
Right.
Because it hurts what they do best. You know what I mean? Like, you can't play the pick and roll. Like, Ja needs the ball in his hands. He needs to be able to do the pick and roll. He needs to be able to attack. Tyus is not as comfortable, I think, out on the wing. He needs to also have the ball in his hands. A little different, but still, he likes to get in the paint. He likes to distribute from there, little floaters, all that stuff. I think they're very similar players. Not saying they have the exact same traits, but similar in the way they want to attack in ways. And it just hurts when they're both on the floor. I get what you're saying about Kennard and how he's a plus. The problem is they don't have someone to fill Kennard, is your worry, right? Like, they don't have a shooter like that. They don't have someone who they'd respect. They have young guys like Roddy and Conchar and, guys that are, not a Luke Kennard, which is probably your issue.
Yeah, they just, with no Steven Adams, no Brandon Clark, if they didn't have Kennard, Brooks's shot looks broken. I mean, yeah, the coach doesn't trust anybody besides Tyus and Kennard really off the bench, a little bit of Santi Aldama, a little bit of,
It's weird though, because he's trusted Roddy in certain spots to play like 20 minutes, a couple of these games. Like,
I just think he likes Roddy's, Roddy's just a big boy, like Roddy can go out there and just bang around, but Roddy is not. He's sort of like an enforcer out there or something. He doesn't really provide you with anything except for just a big solid body, And I do think that Kennard being on the court is really good for, like, Bane, really good for Jaren Jackson. Like, it just provides these guys with all that spacing. And I do think Ja has huge upside, but I sort of get the feeling that this is sort of Desmond Bane's team now in the half court, right? Like, Desmond Bane is more. He's better suited to play off sort of half court basketball, of course, Ja, if he can get this game up tempo, get it at his pace,
that's the difference.
Yeah, he has a huge ceiling.
Guy. Yeah.
But, like, you've really seen them now the last couple of games leaning really hard on Bane in these half court sets. So I kind of think that's going to continue, but we'll see.
I mean, 47 and 43 minutes. They're definitely leaning on him for sure offensively and just being out there, 29 and 21 shots. Tony, what do you think here with this Memphis Lakers series? I know you've been high on the Lakers to start the playoffs. What are you doing here?
Yeah, I'm happy that Wilson's talking about Kennard too, because I had that same take on the show 1 or 2 games ago, where it's just like Kennard's just better with him on the floor. They're just better, and it's because he creates the spacing. So I'm glad to hear Wilson say that. I don't know if he's going to play tonight. It looks like totally up in the air, really, if he plays. But I do agree that, man, if he's somehow out, like, they're just going to play these 5 guys. They don't want to play Tyus with Ja, which Tyus is 3,900. So some people might actually play him if Kennard was out, but they just don't want to play him with Ja. So outside of foul trouble, I mean, they're going to play these 5 guys just into the ground. And if Kennard's in there, though, 3,800, he could definitely be a sneaky play again that won't be that high owned, especially with the injury. Bane, I mean, I think this game plays a half-court game. And the Lakers, if I've learned anything about LeBron in the playoffs in 20 years, he slows the pace. He controls the pace as good as anybody in the playoffs. There's no way they want to let Ja get out and run, especially in L.A. So I think, yeah, Bane at 7,400, I like him. I'm okay with Ja, but I think I like Curry more than – I think tonight's the Curry night. I think Curry goes nuts tonight. But I don't mind Ja. Obviously, if you land on Ja, I have no issue with it. It could be the same build for me that you guys were talking about, where maybe instead of Fox, I play Ja and Curry. I don't think anyone's going to do that all that much. I mean, 2 spend-ups at guard and the 9 Ks makes it tough. So I do like that build. I think it's a good game tonight, though. And the Kennard
Tony, what is your view of the Lakers in general right now? Because – you know, we've seen these like Anthony Davis in, was it game 3? That's probably the best I've seen Anthony Davis play in years. That was just like,
in last game he went 31 and 19, or what did he go? 31 and 19 last. So in the game you're talking about, he had 31 and 13,
golly,
17.
I didn't realize
31
he did so
and
well
19 last game. So he's had 2 like, just monsters.
Game 4 was just like one of the worst things I've ever seen. You know, LeBron looks good. I would say not great. I mean, where do you stand on these guys right now?
Yeah, I think they know they need to win tonight, close it out at home. I think they both have looked good. LeBron looks fresh. The weird thing about AD is, like you said, some of these games he just disappears, and I don't get it. Some people blame the offense and stuff. I never blame the offense. If you're a stud, make them get you the ball. Kind of like what JSU was talking about with Giannis on D. Like, there's no excuses if you're the star to not get the ball. Get the ball. And he was fine the last couple games. I just like this Lakers team, honestly. And I think it's kind of a bad matchup versus Memphis. A little bit what Wilson's saying. They match up decent. Like, I think the Lakers are going to match up better next round against Golden State if they both win. With these bigs and this size, Looney's not going to dominate this big front line like he is right now. Sacramento's got just Sabonis and a bunch of wings. I think the Lakers match up much better, which is why they need to close it out tonight, because they got a chance in the West, in my opinion, as long as they get by Memphis. I don't see them winning Game 7 in Memphis. So they got to close it out tonight at home. I don't know. I like LeBron and AD, but I don't know if I'll get to them just outside of game stacks, where you're game stack and hope the first game blows out. Just because I like Curry more, I like Ja more, even Bane. And then you got the mid-range guys that I just can't fade, like Looney, Wiggins, Draymond. I mean, those guys, Clay, even at 67, those guys are just good plays where I don't want to – and it's hard to pick between AD and LeBron too. They're good plays. So I'm a little indifferent as far as DFS and the Lakers. What about Schroeder at 3,500?
I think the problem for Schroeder now is if they're just going to play, they're going to play Austin Reeves the whole game, you know, and I know that like some of the times like Schroeder has been subbing in and out with Vanderbilt a little bit because they sort of both can guard. Strangely, they're like 2 of their favorite guys to put on Ja Morant. You know, I don't know. Schroeder's played I love Schroeder. I think he's a baller. He's played very poorly the last couple of games. Yeah, I definitely think he's one of those guys you've got to include tonight. He probably won't get there, but I guess that is one thing to sort of think about, like in this game, is that, for like Beasley, for Schroeder, like the minutes for those Laker guys are just going to be through the roof. I mean, I know they're trying to get LeBron a little more rest, but LeBron played, how many minutes did LeBron play last game?
37.
So he played
and
37
I think
minutes.
It's going to be. I think he plays 40 for sure tonight.
So that's the deal. Is that they were really kind of taking it easy on LeBron, but he played 37 minutes, and that was a huge blowout. So, like, I'm not sure these bench guys for the Lakers are going to be playing very much, except for Hachimura. I don't know.
I mean, it's a must-win spot for the Lakers. It really is. They got to win tonight. They got to play these guys.
I love how they switch up between Vanderbilt and Schroeder on Ja too, giving them different looks. That's completely different too. When you get two guys like that, just totally different. Schroeder's kind of just in your face, annoying, and then you get Vanderbilt size, athleticism. I kind of like that. But the
advantage to Schroeder though is like he's got to be a better play than like Alex Lynn or those guys we were talking about in the first game, right? The same price, really, 3,400.
I think the minutes are more guaranteed with Schroeder too. I don't think the minutes are as guaranteed, even the 10 or 11.
Alex Lynn might just not play. I'll just say this though, just kind of looking around the industry at all the ownership projections, I would be, I don't know how many lineups I'm going to make tonight, but if I'm making like a basket of lineups, I'd be jamming the hell out of LeBron and Anthony Davis. Like, I think you could almost make a case that like,
they are going to be low.
They're going to be low owned. You would just put, you'd obviously just max one, but like, it's not the worst idea in the world to say, you know what, I'm going to have one of Anthony Davis and LeBron on every team tonight. It's a very risky strategy. You're going to have some ugly lineups doing it that way, but like, you just don't get many opportunities where you're going to get these guys playing like 40, 42 minutes. And tonight's that night, And so one of those guys could put up 70 tonight, And I think it's probably Anthony Davis that would do it, but I wouldn't be impossible for it to be LeBron either,
I think the other guy that we didn't really talk about that much, but how are we not playing Austin Reeves? The dude's been awesome. He plays 40 minutes. He's played 40 and 42 minutes the last two games. He's taking a bunch of shots. He's distributing. I mean, he's doing a little of everything that for fantasy you love. You love when your guy can rack up all these different stats. He can rebound a little. He can get assists, get some stocks, score, shoot. And it's in LA. I think that it helps him a little bit more, just the player feeding off that crowd. And I think LeBron, outside of AD, I think he's the guy LeBron trusts, honestly, the most. I think he's the guy. I could see him having a monster game here. I could see LeBron or AD and then him. So it'd be one of the studs and then he kind of crushes. I think he's like the best mid-range Laker by far. I would take him over D-Russ, obviously. I think he's kind of proving himself to be ahead of D-Russ, even though they're like the same price tag wise. There's $100 difference. I see him as more than that ahead of D'Angelo Russell, the way he's been playing. I'm definitely going to jam him, and I like your take on jamming one of the studs.
The only downside to Reeves at all is just literally ownership. He's going to be the highest owned guy on the slate. That's the only downside to him.
I mean, okay, it's for decent reason. You're getting 40 minutes. No, I agree. Guy, sure.
I'm just saying that on a 2-game slate though, where again, I agree with everything you just said. I like Reeves too. I'm just saying that on a 2-game slate, the flip side is though, if he does, even if he gets like 23, but
he's your Looney. It's the same thing as your take for Looney, where you're like, I just can't fade this guy.
But Looney's going to be relative decent.
Looney's going to be popular.
He's going to be popular, but not as popular as Reeves.
I think on these short slates, you're still worrying about differentiating like 2 spots. So if you like Looney or you like Reeves or whoever they are, those mid-tier guys, they're all going to be popular. Yes, will Reeves be a little higher? Will Looney be a little higher? For sure. But I think as long as you know that you need to differentiate a couple spots, I'm fine with you saying these are my top plays and I'm just not getting off of them. And that's kind of how I feel with Reeves. To your sentiment about Looney, I think it's similar in ways. It's just I'm not playing him on a 2-game slate. If I lose because of him, I lose because of him. We're all playing chalk on this slate. It's 2 games. Every single person who's playing.
Yeah,
is
and I would
playing
just
some
say
chalk.
that in this playoffs, I've been surprised that the ownership has been a little flatter across the board than I've been expecting. There's a lot of guys that I thought were going to be 60 or 75, 60, 70, 80% owned sometimes. And it just hasn't really worked out like that. Like, this Reeves, he's going to be like 50% owned or something like that. But, I agree with you. Like, he's a lock in cash. And, always just do with a guy like Austin Reeves is just say, you know what, I'm just going to play him on every lineup. I'm going to let other people make the mistake and not play him on 30 or 40% of their lineups. And, it's a start,
Yeah, you got to take some stands at some point. And with chalk, I like the way of either taking the full stand or getting off. It's one or the other, but I don't like being in the middle of
One
those type of
decision
plays.
point for sure is, D'Lo is going to be just his own almost. So I could see fading him and playing Reeves, and that's one way. A lot of people are just going to play both, which that's another reason Wilson's point too about LeBron and AD. They just have to come in like 10 to 15% owned on a 2-game slate where they're going to play 40 minutes. So, this is why I like doing these shows, because I wasn't going to play AD and LeBron, but I think it makes a lot of really good points at that ownership.
And I think in larger field tournaments, you have to be careful about playing Russell and Schroeder together. It's going to make a lot of sense.
And Reeves, you mean, right?
I'm sorry, Russell and Reeves. It's going to feel really good to play them together, but I don't think I would.
I agree.
Too much.
I would definitely play. I would.
Play I like Reeves way more than D'Lo, just as far as security. D'Lo takes a back seat more than him too, actually, which you wouldn't think coming into the series, but he just has. They love Reeves.
D'Angelo Russell is just sort of a spot up shooter out there. Reeves has the ball in his hands more.
Way more. And when I gave my take, for some reason, I thought this was more to my point, though, of when I talked about it. It was because I like Reeves way more than Russell. Yeah. Why I want to be on Reeves over Russell, not both. And then you guys talked about it. I'm definitely not going to play both. And I think if you like Russell over Reeves, okay, but I wouldn't play them both together like these guys are saying 100%.
The nice part, though, I really feel like we're getting somewhere talking about it, giving good stuff. But when I run the optimizers around the industry, I always like to look at each one and see. So the highest 4 guys for sure tonight on all of these are the guys we talked about: Looney and Reeves, D'Lo and Keegan Murray. And I hate D'Lo and Keegan Murray, so it lets me fade 2 of them. And I love Looney and Reeves, so it kind of pushes me where I'm deciding between 4 highest owned, and I'm only picking 2 of the 4.
Yeah, I love that because I'm on the same side as you. Wilson, what do you do with chalk like that? Do you try and lock in on 1 or 2 plays and then kind of fade 1 or 2, or how are you with those type of plays?
So the thing is that normally in the regular season in NBA, I'm making a sort of a cash or a cash hybrid team that I'm playing in 3-mans and small field GPPs. And then I'm maybe making another 1 or 2 tournament teams. I just don't have the ability to manage all of the late news and do, 15 handbuild lineups or do MME. But in the playoffs, I've been doing MME and I've been doing, more handbuilds because, you don't have to worry as much about all the late news. And, I like to take really big stands. I like to go super aggressive on guys. For me, what works the best is just finding low owned guys that are going to be 5 or 10 or 15% owned and just going multiples over them. I had a lot of success on that Robert Williams day. He was 10% owned or something when he put up 40 DraftKings points. I was 50% on him, Now I had some mistakes on my lineups, but I like to take really big stands, and especially in MME, if I'm doing 150 lineups in a $10 or $20 contest, I just take huge stands, and I always just feel like you're not, don't worry about covering all the bases, you're just going to,
That's when you start to lose, is when you start to worrying about covering all your bases. That's when you start to really get in trouble, in my opinion, when you start to worry about, like, I need to have this and I need to have that. That when I am a me, that's what I always get in trouble with is at first I want to like make sure I have some of this. And then I'm like, no, I'm just spread out too much. And then I get spread. Then I do the opposite. And Tony knows it. And he always makes fun of me where I take too heavy of stands where I'm like locking in 2 or 3 guys. But it's just, I'm like wired that way. I can't help myself. I need to like lock in on like my 3 favorite plays.
Yeah. And so like on this slate, like I think that this slate's a little bit of a problem because the thing is it's 2 games and it's really well priced by DraftKings. The pricing's pretty tight because we don't have any value really. And so I don't see, low-owned guys that are just great plays. So for me, if I was going to MME this slate, which I might, I'm not sure yet. And by the way, you can totally play Russell and Schroeder together in small field GPP and in cash and all that. But I would lock in. I would just say I want at least one of, or exactly one of LeBron and Anthony Davis. They're both going to be like 15, 10, 15, 20% owned on a 2-game slate. And okay, so if one of those guys ends up optimal tonight, which maybe the probability is not that high, then I'm going to have, 75 lineups with each of them. And I'm going to take my chances that way. And, I'm getting two of the best players on the slate at less than 20% owned. Like that's the stand I would make on this slate because everyone else pretty much looks pretty well priced. I do think that Reeves is going to be higher owned than D'Angelo Russell. I think that ownership projections I'm seeing has them pretty even. I've looked 2 or 3 different places. I think D'Angelo Russell is going to be super high owned. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he'll be as high owned as Reeves.
Yeah, that's fair. I would agree with that.
And I wouldn't play Anthony Davis or LeBron in cash, and I probably wouldn't play him on my single bullet, my Thunderdome type team.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like for MME or like the 555 or stuff like that, like that's the position I would want to take.
I like it. Tony, anything else on this game before we get into the series? Talking about some of these series coming up.
No. I mean, I love the AD LeBron take, though. Definitely going to be the lowest owned and definitely have a chance to win the slate. I agree with the rest of the stuff you guys were saying, too.
All right. Well, let's go to these series that we know for sure are going to happen here with a couple of these. And Wilson, I want to get some of your takes here. Tony, I want to get some of your takes on how you see them playing out. Phoenix and Denver. We got Miami, New York. Sixers in Boston. Let's start with Phoenix and Denver real quick. Tony, I'll go to you first, actually, because you're the Denver guy. What are you doing with this series?
I'm most excited for this series, obviously, as a Jokic Denver guy. Loved them from the beginning, and now you get to face the super team, KD, Booker, CP. I think it's a great matchup. They obviously swept the Nuggets, I think, last year where the fan was holding up the 4 fingers and stuff. Maybe it was the year before, but one of the last 2 years. And it's just a different Nuggets team. And to be honest, they looked incredible to me in the first round. And Phoenix looked a little rough. I expected myself to pick Phoenix, but they struggled a little more than I thought they would in that first round. And all mid-range shots. I'm feeling optimistic about my Nuggets coming together. Guys like KCP, Bruce Brown, these guys are really good playoff role players. You have clear roles. You got Jamal Murray looking like a killer in the playoffs again. Yoke's going to be Yoke. I feel good about Denver. I'm nervous because it's obviously going against a powerhouse, and I'm really, really looking forward to this series. I think it goes 6 or 7, and I think the Nuggets got a chance to pull this puppy out.
Love it. I do feel like this series goes 7 games. So I'm with you there. I am leaning Denver, actually, too, with the plus. But, Wilson, I'll bring you in here. We haven't been that high on Phoenix. Phoenix, to me, has looked like a team where they're still learning how to gel with each other. I mean, when you give up 100 – what did they give up to the Clippers that last game where Russ was terrible and they still gave up like 120-something points? Like, that, to me, is worrisome when there's no Kawhi, there's no Paul George. You got Russ jacking up all these shots, not making any, and you're still giving up that to the Clippers. I don't know if that's going to work out with some of these other teams where their stars are intact. What are you doing with Phoenix and
I
Denver?
think the Phoenix figured out a way to give up 130 points in that last game to LA with no PG, no Kawhi, with Russ going like 3 of 15 or 3 of 20 or whatever he was. Phoenix's defense sucks, and it was bad. It was bad down the stretch. They're not going to have anyone that can guard Jamal Murray. Take each team's top 2 players out of it for a second. Let's talk about Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Bruce Brown, and KCP, and compare that with Chris Paul, Ayton, Craig, and Okogie. And I just love the Denver side there. I just love Denver on that 4v4. I think Michael Porter Jr. has sort of like waking back up again. He looks awesome shooting the ball. He's just, I don't know how they're going to guard him with Jokic and Jamal Murray kind of doing their deal. Like he's just going to be, I could see a huge series for him. They don't have anyone to guard Jamal Murray. Aaron Gordon and KCP are 2 very legitimate wing defenders for Durant and Booker. Of course, they're going to score a bunch of points. Not going to stop them. Yeah, I love Denver in this series. Maybe Phoenix figures it out. Maybe they come together. They looked horrible. They were like 8-0 in the regular season with Durant. I thought they looked really bad in the games I watched. They played they played either bad teams or they played good teams that were resting everyone. Hell, they almost got beat by Denver in a game where Denver was resting like their top 5 or 6 guys. So yeah, I'm on the same page for pretty much all the things you guys said.
My only worry as a Denver guy, and my only worry, and it's a big worry, Phoenix loves the high pick and roll, obviously. Denver plays drop. And God, CP gives me nightmares coming off that drop with Yoke dropping in the middle. I can just picture CP just hitting that little 14-footer over and over and over. But the flip side to that is they're shooting 2s all game. That's kind of where we want them, right? We want them shooting those 2s. So it's good and bad, but I am fearful, and I do think it's going to be a CP series for sure. I think he's going to have a monster series as far as the Suns.
I think CP and MPJ are actually going to be the 2 guys that could end up determining the way this series goes, as crazy as that may sound.
MPJ was good in that first series. He really was. He looked very good. Him and Jamal.
And those shots are going to be there. Good. They're going to be there, man. So,
like that Minnesota team they handled pretty easily was much better than people think. Like they're a solid team. They're better than a lot of these teams in the playoffs in the East.
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards, stud. Just absolute stud.
I wish they hadn't screwed up their team with all this Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns shit. And
same here. Where are the people saying they were better after that trade? Where are those people? I mean,
there is none of those people anymore. There's
no one. They were Tony. They were real though, right? I'm not talking about people
in
that
our
were
Discord.
Real.
Looking at you, Bogart.
Poor Bogart. He always gets shamed every time there's a big conversation on.
When you jerk off to Gobert for 3 years, you're going to take some heat now.
It's true. All right, let's go Celtics and Sixers real quick. I've had the take that the Celtics are just by far the best team. I thought they would beat the Bucks. I don't care who they would have faced. I just thought they were the clear team in the East. And it wasn't close for me, honestly. So I am obviously sticking with my Celtics here. But, Wilson, what are you doing here with the series, Philly and Boston?
Yeah, I think I picked Boston to win the championship. No surprise there. Pretty chalky pick. I do think Philly looked incredible in the first round. I don't have an opinion on this series right now because we don't really know what the situation is with Embiid. I guess game 1, I see the line is -7 for Boston. I mean, that's got to be indicating they don't think Embiid's playing game 1, right?
I think he's got to be on the closer doubtful side, but I have no idea. Like, I mean,
he looked so bad in that last game we saw him. He was falling all over the court. couldn't walk. He was in shambles.
Yeah, I don't know.
He falls. Does anyone fall more than him in general, Tony? I mean, he's got to fall the most of any superstar.
He had to fall 10 plus times in that game. Like that big body going to the ground over and over. That can't be good.
My favorite was still when he fell and Claxton dunked on him, and then he tried to kick him. That's still my favorite.
No, the worst was when they called a technical on freaking Claxton for dunking on his head.
Oh, I do remember that too.
Of the whole in my lifetime. That was brutal.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a Philly guy, so I can't support any.
I've never really enjoyed watching Embiid play. I like watching. I mean, I know he's great, but I do like watching Maxey play. I kind of be interested. I think Boston will win the series, but probably not anything actionable. I don't know what the price will be on the series, but I don't think it'll be at a price that I'd be interested in Boston at all. Yeah, probably though.
310. I mean, it's not
minus 300. Like you're not laying minus 300 on it.
I would. No. I'd take Philly. Just right. You know, if you made me, I'd just take Philly.
I would too, even though I don't like Philly to win. I mean, plus 250 with Philly. I'm not laying 300 on Boston versus Philly.
Look at this guy. K Reed's in the chat. Tony, this guy peeled $100 from me. Did I tell you this? Like a week ago, he peeled $100. He slid in.
He owned me in the playoffs too. I shipped him like thousands of dollars.
He slid in there. Brooklyn was up like 10. He's like, I'll take Philly. I don't have any action on this game. I'm like, I already had a ton on Brooklyn.
He's always hustling us.
And I was like, sure, why not? I'll take another 100. Why not? And then he just peeled me for it.
Bengals are going to come whoop his ass next year. I'm going to whoop you with the Bengals, K. Reed.
But this is a side note. I'm not a draft guy or anything, but how the hell did Philly get the best player in the draft? Like, this is ridiculous.
They got 2 top players in the first round on top of their
dude
team.
Who should have been picked. Like 8 people passed on and someone trade. I don't know how you even do that. I don't know how you trade out of that spot. I don't know how you pick that guy. I don't know. Whatever. Philly wins again. K. Reed, be happy. You got the dogs. You got some good dogs on your those Georgia guys. Those are good picks there for you. But all right, let's go to the next series. Knicks and the Heat, which I think. For me, Denver series and the Knicks Heat series are the 2 most interesting ones, East and West, in my opinion, that I'm looking at. And I feel like the Knicks are going to mix things up coverage-wise with Jimmy. That was one of the more interesting things Giannis said that I don't know if people are talking about as much. To me, it felt like he almost threw Bud under the bus a little when he was talking about, like, we didn't really mix stuff up and change coverages and do different things, adjustments. I think Tibbs is going to do everything. I think he's going to throw the kitchen sink at Jimmy. He's going to make someone else beat him. He did it with Donovan Mitchell at times in that series. I think he's going to try and do that with Jimmy Butler. Wilson, what do you think here? Do you think Tibbs kind of changes it up?
Yeah, I know. I listened to the Zach Lowe podcast, and he was just saying that, that Budenholzer from Milwaukee never changes his defense. They basically, they switch guys on Jimmy. They put different people, let him have a shot at him, but they don't run double teams. They don't run anything interesting on defense. It's a very simple defense. And, really, I think Tibbs is going to be a huge coaching upgrade over Budenholzer in the last series. I think he'll have much better game plans. I like the Mitch. Poor Bam, if he gets Brook Lopez and Giannis, and now he gets freaking Mitch Robinson. I like everything about this Knicks team. It's a very, very well constructed team. Even though they don't have a lot of superstar power, you've got a really good point guard. You've got a really good backup point guard. You've got a really good center. You got a really good backup center. You've got a bunch of big wing defenders. And the best part about this Knicks team is that, Julius Randle doesn't even really matter that much. I was so wanting in game 1 of Cleveland. I really wanted Randle to be out. And then I was just going to slam the Knicks. I love betting on the Knicks when Randle's out. It's not that Randle's bad. It's just that he's not as important as Mitch Robinson. He's not as important as Brunson. Obi Toppin played great, I think, in that series, given, it was sort of an unexpected role for him. I just think that this is a very well-constructed team. And until they play a team that's got immensely better talent than them, like they probably will in the conference finals. I think they're just going to keep winning. So, you know, Miami's got the best player, but then the Knicks have like, 4 or 5 of the next 7 best players or something like that. And so, yeah, I like the Knicks. I mean, I think this sets up really well for them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you kind of on the Julius Randle take. And when Obi Toppin was in there, he played really well. We all know Quickly can play. I mean, Quickly is like, in ways like Tyrese Maxey-ish type player, like just energy, brings it, can get really hot at times, fill it up. I think that's kind of a similar comp for him. I'm really a big Quickly fan, so I like him. But Tony, Jimmy Butler just finished the 1 seed, and Giannis put them out of their misery. Are you going against Jimmy Butler in this series? Are you on the Knicks?
Yeah, this is my favorite series for sure. I love the Knicks. I think they roll, and I made a pretty big bet earlier today. I minus 2.5 games for the Knicks is plus 275. So what is that? If they win 4-1, right? If it goes, they would have to win 4-1. So win in 5, and that's how I think they win. Honestly, I think Miami wins 1 game. So plus 275 just feels like a great value to me. I think that the Heat kind of shot their wad a little bit. I mean, Tyler Hero was gone. Jimmy had to be absolutely amazing. The Knicks crowd, the Garden, was unbelievable atmosphere that first round. It's only going to get louder as it goes. I just don't think the Heat have the dudes.
Well, and Tony, that's a really good point too. I was going to say about MSG is that the Knicks have one of the best home courts in the league. And one thing that Peter Jennings pointed out to me earlier in the playoffs is that Miami really doesn't have a home court advantage. It's a very weak home court. If you look at those games, man, I mean, like halfway through the first quarter, like no one's there. Like even in the playoffs, I mean, it
there
comes
could be more
alive.
Knicks fans or close to as many, not as many. It's a playoff.
Yeah, but I mean, like
Knicks
really,
fans,
the Knicks have a much bigger home court advantage than Miami, and not that that's a huge deal. I don't think that matters to Jimmy Butler much. But that's another thing. And like, I think the Knicks are going to get a pretty good whistle in MSG, and I think that's a pretty sharp play because that game 5 is in MSG. So yeah, I kind of like that.
Oh, yeah. When you're betting it too at plus 275, you just want to win those first 2 at home. Just get those 2. You're going to steal 1 on the road and then close it out at home. And like if it's 3-1 going home, I mean, you're going to get it. You could even hedge it if you want it in that game.
I'll tell you right now, I think Tibbs definitely makes an adjustment and forces the ball to get out of Jimmy Butler's hands.
Why wouldn't you?
I mean,
what were the Bucks doing?
The Bucks, I know what they were doing. They thought that Drew Holiday was a good enough defender. They respect him enough as a defender to be like, you can handle the best player on the other team. That's how they always done it. Bud doesn't make adjustments. Tibbs will not do that. Listen, Donnie Mitchell did that first game. Tony, you remember the first game they played, right? He went off. After that, what happened? Donnie Mitchell started to neutralize him, said, okay, let the second and the third beat us. Let's see. Let's see you guys do it. I think they got
like better matchups too. Like I know Drew Holiday's a great defender, but he's more of a defender of like small guards, not dudes that'll body bag you like Jimmy. RJ Barrett's got more size, and I know people don't love RJ, but he's a good defender. You can say what you want about offense, but he's going to give Jimmy different looks. Mitch Rob at the rim, like Wilson's saying. I just think it's a perfect matchup for them.
Man, everyone hates RJ Barrett so much. I think he's okay,
He's just really bad, like shooting and open, but he's a good defender and a good role player. He is, and he's still young.
I think he's got to just not get 3 happy and keep attacking the rim. I think he sometimes settles when he should just continue to attack. And because we saw it in the last series with size that Cleveland had, and went at the Garden, he was getting to the rim and scoring like layups over the size of Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. I think he's just got to keep doing that. But yeah, Josh Hart, RJ, if Quentin Grimes is available, Tibbs likes his defense.
Have better dudes. Like just go down the list, dude for dude. They're just better.
I'll tell you right now what Tibbs is going to do, though. He's going to make Bam Adebayo score He's going to make him a scorer, right? He's going to make him say, Jimmy's not scoring 40 on us. He's going to drop it to you, and you're going to be the one that has to beat us.
Mitch-Rob's going to own Bam.
I'm telling you, though, that's what he's
Bam
gonna do.
finally looked a little bit better in game.
In that last
5.
game, he crushed.
But, Bam has not looked good. I will say this, too, about Milwaukee, and I don't know why I didn't put this together. Maybe I just thought it was just something in my brain. But me and my buddy Jake Anderson, we talk a lot of NBA. We've been talking for 2 months now about how Milwaukee has not been playing any defense. And there's been all these games again when they play these terrible teams like Detroit and stuff where they were winning like 130 or like 150 to 130 and stuff. And everyone say, oh, no, their defense is good. They're just playing super fast. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, but like and you watch the series versus Miami and it was the same thing. It was just so like they were running up and down the court. They were taking fast shots. And then, they just sort of felt like they could outscore Miami like they did everyone else all season. And that's just not the way that Tibbs is going to coach this series. He's not going to allow that to happen.
You're going to see the opposite. These games are going to be slower. They're going to be definitely lower scoring. Like you're going to see the opposite for sure with these games. Cause I think Jimmy doesn't care either. Like the Heat, they're fine playing at so like, I definitely think it's a slower pace to Tibbs.
Honestly, Budenholzer has to be fired. That was an egregious coaching performance. And I've always thought that he's kind of like gets unfairly criticized, but that was egregious. Like
I never liked Bud, so I'm definitely a criticizer because I've never liked him. But
you can't lose that series if you're Milwaukee.
You can lose it, but you can't get beat 4-1.
Yeah.
Not the way they lost it though. I mean, they lost to Jimmy and everyone else. Like they had friggin' Love and Struss and these dudes. Like they should not be beating you 4-1 like that. Like they definitely shouldn't. So yeah, I mean, it should be interesting.
So we're all in going against Kevin Durant and Jimmy Butler. What could go wrong with that, right?
When you put it like that, it doesn't make me feel as confident, Wilson. I was really confident before you put it like that.
I'm very confident in the Knicks. I'm worried that I'm partial towards my Nuggets, but I do feel like they're a different team this year. That they looked really, really good to me in the first round.
Aaron Gordon's a really good player.
Yeah, and healthy. He wasn't healthy last year in the playoffs.
Yep, that's definitely. I mean,
I'll say this: Phoenix is going to have to play a lot better to beat Denver, and they will play better, but they're going to have to play a lot better.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Spencer Smith in chat says, "Give me Monk over RJ." Well,
they're two totally different.
Totally
players.
different.
Yeah, that's just not
totally different.
And I think one has like a ceiling, whereas I think Monk is about as good as
Monk's at his ceiling or close to it.
Which is
he can get more consistent, but he's at his ceiling.
Monk is really good. I don't want to make it sound like he's not really good, but I think RJ has like another level he could go to where I don't know if Monk has that extra level that he could go to. Now, if you said who's going to drop more buckets at the YMCA, I'll take Monk for sure over RJ.
Yeah, Monk's like a poor man's Jordan Clarkson or something. I don't like RJ is like a big boy,
That's a solid comparison, I think. Jordan Clarkson type. Yeah, that's solid. All right, boys, anything else here? I mean, we rambled on for an hour and a half about a 2-game slate and a bunch of hoops. But I think people enjoyed it in the chat. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Run Pure Sports YouTube channel, ring that bell at the bottom right-hand corner because we got tons of shows. They got a baseball show going on right now. If you're a premium subscriber, we'll have the Up to Lock show going on at 6 p.m. Eastern time, and they'll take you all the way up to Lock for baseball, maybe talk some NBA. I know AP will be on there with DC and Holden talking some NBA and all the content that they're throwing up there for premium subs. So make sure you guys check that out if you're not a premium member. Wilson, it was awesome having you on, man. Hopefully we can do this again soon.
Yeah, this was great, guys. Good seeing y'all, and good luck, everybody. See you.
Tony, anything else here for the people?
No, I love these shows with Wilson coming on, and I miss them from the COVID times. Or even the shows where we talked about Game of Thrones, and I forget, maybe Better Call Saul. I don't remember what else we talked about,
Yeah.
but I like all these shows. I like, and JSU likes these too, where we can come on and just talk about whatever. It doesn't have to be a DFS slate. Sure, we talked about that too, but we'll definitely get Wilson on more because I know people love when he goes on the spaces and talks too. So hopefully people liked it. We'll try to do this at least once a week or something.
He started to go, oh, JSU loves to just come on and talk for an hour and a half. Of course JSU loves to come on and talk for an hour and a half. You don't got to sell me on anything. I love it. So
let's pick some winners now, like in 19. Let's pick some winners, some Nuggies, some Knicks. Let's go.
Yeah, I like both of those. I do. I think those are good.
Wilson, before we leave, last pick. Who wins if we get the Lakers Warriors?
Man, that is really tough.
It's going to be a fun series, though.
Yeah, I mean that's an awesome series. I mean, I can't make a pick on that right now. And I think a lot of times it's really helpful. Honestly, I know it's kind of a cop-out, but it's really interesting to watch teams interact with each other one time, and then a lot of times you can sort of see what teams are getting lucky. A lot of times after game one, if you see some things that the losing team can easily fix, if it's just a really unlucky shooting game. So, a lot of times in these series plays too, like coming in and getting a lot of value after game one, if there's things that you think are correctable, or the other way, like if the Knicks Cleveland series, it's just obvious that that should have been obvious to people watching that how screwed the Cleveland was, even after game two when they won, So I like to watch teams interact with each other,
One of the dynamics that I think is interesting at that series, like they had all those, I mean, how many times they play in the finals? 4 or 5? Like all those legendary battles. And now after a few years have settled a little bit, now they just stroke each other. Like both sides just literally stroke the other. Draymond, Curry, all these guys are just full stroke back and forth. So it'd be interesting to see them have a series.
Do you guys think Draymond accidentally tries to go into the wrong locker room at the end of the game to shower
he definitely loves
with LeBron? I mean, come on, seriously. Yeah. Do we think that happens? I'm setting the odds. I think there's a good shot, though. I'll tell you that.
There's no way they're not playing together soon. Like they love each other.
If he goes anywhere, it's to wherever LeBron is. Like that's.
Yeah. And by the way, we talk about playoff Jimmy, but playoff Draymond is not bad.
I love Draymond so much.
I mean, God, he is such a baller, and he's so. Oh, he's a maddening person.
You don't got to sell Draymond on this panel. We're all Draymond.
I like Wilson coming on. He thinks like us. I mean, he's a sharp dude, and I'll always like his takes.
There we go. Hopefully, we get more of Wilson's takes. Maybe next week. Who knows? We'll try and get him back.
At least before the next round of games, maybe at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Let's do it. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate Wilson for joining us. For me, JSU, Big T, and Wilson. We'll catch you guys later. We're out.